Hey everyone, Derek Featherstone, Chief Experience Officer at Level Access. Just wanted to run through the final tip for you today in our Inclusion Week series. This one is probably the toughest, really tough, because it requires you to look inwardly at your own practice and your own process. But if we can't identify the ways in which our own processes and tools are excluding people with disabilities, then we'll never be able to fully engage people with disabilities in our work. So when you do this, you need to examine your process. Here's a pretty common example, and I say this from personal experience, having led quite a few design activities with different teams. We get a group of people together for a working session, and we get to the end of the session, and we know that design happened because there are sticky notes all over the wall. The whiteboard is covered with great stuff, and it feels great, and it's progress. We have things to share with the team and others to show the work that we did. So what is the next thing we do? Almost every single time, the first thing that happens is we pull out our phone and we take a photo of it, and then we take that photo, we post it to Slack, or we post it in Basecamp or Notion or wherever it is, and we call it a day. But we didn't consider that that photo is capturing all of that information and all of that value in a purely visual format. So what we're thinking of right now is this: could someone that can't see the photo actually get value from the work? And the reality is not likely. We need to do something that unlocks those details and puts them in a text-based format so that everyone can consume it. So in that case, our process and the way that we are capturing and sharing information in the team is actually excluding people from participating in a meaningful way in the process of design itself. In other words, our process is excluding people with visual disabilities by default. Here's another one. We conduct, say, group critiques of designs, and that is always in person. And we're talking with each other and reviewing things live in real time. But what about somebody that maybe is deaf? How would they participate in that? Perhaps they can participate in real time just like they would, but perhaps what we need to do is, rather than doing all of the critique and all of the discussion via voice discussion, what if we decided that sometimes those critiques were actually going to happen via some text-based medium? So I like to ask this question: could a person with a disability be part of our team? So to expand on that, could a blind person work as part of your dev team? Or could a deaf person be one of your designers? Could a person that uses a wheelchair or a mobility scooter be one of your product owners or managers? Could an autistic person be part of your UX or research team? Now, those pairings and the order of all of those people with disabilities and their positions was completely arbitrary. So you should actually ask those questions for many people with many types of disabilities and many different positions on your teams. The reason I ask this question is not about could we hire with people with disabilities in these positions, although we really should be asking that too, and that's a completely separate discussion. I ask the question because if our design and research process works for people that are on our team that have disabilities, then there's a really good chance that those processes will be more accessible to people that we are including as participants. So bottom line, our processes and the tools that we use might be inherently inaccessible and therefore excluding participation by default. So you need to look inward. How are the processes and the tools that you're using making the overall system inaccessible to begin with? I told you this one was going to be tough. If you have questions, please get in touch with me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or head over to the Level Access website, fill out the contact form, send something off to me. I'm happy to help and to talk through some of this with you. This wraps up the series of tips to help you become more inclusive in your work. I hope that they help you as you strive to become more inclusive in your design and your development process, and you get the opportunity to include more people with disabilities earlier in your process, throughout the entire process, and think of diversifying the number of people and the types of disabilities that we're including in our work so that our process can be as inclusive as possible. Thanks. Again, I'm Derek Featherstone, the Chief Experience Officer here at Level Access. Hope you had a great week.